Welcome to the Harnessing Happiness podcast. Upbeat vibes generated and transferred to you. Now here's your host, Sarah J Naylor.
Hello and welcome to Harnessing Happiness with myself, Sarah J Naylor. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening. Today I have the most gorgeous guest for you, Louise Budgen, and she's lovely. Louise and I only really met online. We haven't met in person as yet, but we met getting on for about a year ago, and she's lovely. She's so lovely, is Louise. She's got such a really, really gorgeous energy, which you will all know as soon as you start listening to her. So I'm going to hand over so Louise can introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about what she actually does, and then we can get chatting. Over to you, Louise. Take centre stage.
Sarah, thank you. That's so lovely. Lovely is a word I use all the time. So to be introduced as lovely, that's great. Thank you. I'm Louise Budgen. I work as a spiritual mentor, and I absolutely love championing the midlife woman, getting her to the point of, beautiful connection and spiritual connection. And I know that this is my life's calling. I've had as Sarah no doubt will be detailing, I've had a journey to this point of many twists and turns. So when I say I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, it's absolutely what I'm supposed to be doing. Yes, I'm a very happy person, hence I'm on the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. You can help me spread happiness globally, which is absolutely awesome. We have a huge listening base in India, which is rather amazing. So hello to everybody in India. Your journey, as I say, we've met online and chatted online, but we haven't met in person as yet. But your journey, from what I understand from, the conversations that we have had, you've had quite a change around, and it's been quite a dramatic. You've had quite a lot of sort of like big stuff that's happened that's given you this sort of wake up call to go, hello, Louise, are you listening? I know even more recently, you sort of appearance wise, you've changed. It's that whole transformation that you've gone through because of these major events that have happened in your life. So yeah, please do share with the listeners your journey, where you were and what you've gone through and where you're at now.
It's no surprise that the majority of these changes came to me in midlife. So hence the fact that just recently realising that the midlife woman really is the person I really want to help is no surprise, because actually I have been that woman. I consider midlife to be 40 to 65, let's say. And my life really from the 49 completely has been one thing after another, challenge after challenge. And I do believe that divine intervention created a car accident that I was in that threw me onto the path of spirituality, threw me headlong into really understanding the mind-body connection, so that I could start to fulfill my own soul mission. I think I was so lost, Sarah, so lost. Yep. I was in a business that I was so not suited to. I didn't realise at the time because I had no awareness. I just was doing what I thought I should be doing. I was surrounding myself with people that perhaps weren't the right people for me to be around at the time. And I had no self-care. And while I thought I was happy, happiness then to happiness now is a completely different vibration, because
wow.
I am truly, truly happy, and I know that, and I feel that every day from within. So that first challenge, which left me with post-traumatic stress disorder, definitely kick-started my new way of showing up and being, because I started to do the work. And in starting to do the personal development work, I also decided to retrain as a coach. Professional coach, which I did, and I thoroughly enjoyed the whole training, everything to do with the learning of that. And starting TDA coaching, which actually stood for thoughts, decisions, actions, because actually that's very simply how I saw at the time. That's what I was helping people with. It's helping entrepreneurs and mainly women, actually, when I think about it. But my niche wasn't really, it was there, but it wasn't exactly as it is now. I didn't have that true connection to it. Anyway, long story short, set up the business. Cancer came twice to visit me.
Wow.
The first time, that also I see as being a big message to really sort out my physical body. I needed to start radical responsibility. My connection to my own soul whispers, as I like to call them, I believe saved my life a couple of times, Sarah, because cancer it was a message that I was very loudly getting, but nobody was listening because the doctors were telling me that I was a bit neurotic and I didn't have cancer. And I had to push and push, and doctors were saying, oh, for goodness sake, Louise, there's nothing wrong with you. We've scanned you. We've blah, blah, blah. But I knew, and I also see this now, Sarah, as part of my having to really dig deep to find my own voice, because Louise has always been this person, always used to be this person that was, oh, well, I don't want to be any bother, I don't want to offend anybody, and always quite people-pleasing and oh, okay, then. I had to dig really deep to say, I'm telling you there's something wrong with me and you need to do more tests. And thank goodness I did, because what then came off the back of that was a golf ball size grade 3 tumour that needed to be removed from my breast. And the consultant that came to see me the next day, he said, I can't tell you how pleased I am that you pushed for this to happen. So that was cancer number 1. Then lots of problems with chemotherapy in my body, in and out of hospital, neutropenia, sepsis. And I believe my spiritual connection saved my life on this occasion as well, because one particular night in hospital, I absolutely know I was visited by angels. And people might think, really? I'm telling you, I was, Sarah. Because when I woke up in the morning, I just knew I was stopping chemotherapy. I was absolutely stopping chemotherapy. I'd been given...
You've made me go so tingly. You go tingly, Louise. That's just such a big message. Oh, my word.
I know. And I'm not saying that I don't agree with chemotherapy, as you'll hear in a minute. However, I got such a download that said, if you don't stop chemotherapy right now, you are going to die of a chemotherapy-related illness. You're not going to die of cancer.
Oh my God.
So you need to listen and you need to stop. And it was that decision against all the medical profession, against my family. I had to really, really stand so tall for myself and find my voice again and say, I believe this is right for me. And with that, I then, continued my radical self-care. So some would argue that when cancer was then found in my lymph nodes 2 years later, and I kept going back to the doctors and the oncologists and everything in between saying, I don't feel right, are you sure? And I kept even pointing to the part of my body, saying, I just feel something's wrong here. So what I'm trying to say to anybody listening is, if you know something's wrong, you are right. There more than likely is something wrong, because your intuition is always guiding you for your highest good.
Absolutely.
So again, I started to have to push through when they were saying, again, medical scans and everything, they are great, but they're not 100%.
Well, you know your body, don't you? If you actually tune in and listen, you do know your body. And I'll allude to a story myself when you finished, you sort of obviously explaining,
And that, again, was me having to really find my voice and say, I'm telling you there's something wrong. And again, I was not very well looked after by my own doctor. That's another story.
For another day.
Turned out that I was absolutely right, and actually they removed 14 lymph nodes and 3 of them had actually exploded in exactly the area that I kept pointing out when I kept going, but scans were showing that they were clear. So I do see this again. It was divine intervention saying, come on, Louise, you need to shout louder. This is a message for you to really start to find your voice. So the very annoying thing at the time was I just started going back to work. The day after I was diagnosed the second time, I'd got a workshop in here in the Zen Den for 12 women, and I went ahead with that, knowing that I was going to have to lose my hair with chemo, have another operation. The following week all that started. So having lost my hair the first time, that's hard enough. But then to lose it again, it's like, oh, this is just so boring. But anyway, so in doing what I did the first time, listening and really trusting the angelic downloads I was getting, I know I put myself in a better position second time, because I was so healthy, Sarah. My diet was so great. My mind, body and my soul were in a really good place. I'd like completely revamped them all through the work I'd been doing, through the self-connection, through the personal development.
It's all the inner work, isn't it? It's all the inner work.
It's the inner work. But some people that are listening to this say, but had she carried on with the chemotherapy, she might have knocked that lymph node cancer, because apparently it was there all along. Even though they said I hadn't got cancer in my lymph nodes, it was in my lymph nodes. So it'd actually been growing there for 2 years. So you could argue there is no right or wrong. That's what I want to say to anybody listening to this. A personal decision regarding any cancer diagnosis is what you need to create for yourself.
Yes.
Always. There's no right or wrong. I'm not condemning chemo. I'm not saying you should have chemo. It will always be a personal decision. And the second time round, I did have chemotherapy, but I had to have it in a very, very low dose, and I had to boost my own immune system before I had chemotherapy with injections to take that. So I'm not against, I want to make that very clear, I'm not against chemotherapy. I was just so tuned into myself that I knew those decisions were right for me.
Well, it could have been something else at the time. That message you were getting about having that, not having the chemo at that time, it could have been inadvertently to do with some chemo equipment, but whatever it is, that process you go through, it might have been that person who was delivering it or the equipment that was delivering it could have been faulty and something could have gone wrong. So it might not have been saying about the treatment itself, but it might have been the administration of the treatment that would have caused the issue that was giving you that download, that message. And as you say, it's about that trusting, really, really trusting that instinct. I mean, I don't want to divert too much from your story, but in terms of trusting your instinct, I discovered a rash on my body when I was pregnant with my son. And I was told by the doctor, oh, I know all about rashes. There's nothing wrong with you. But my body had stiffened up. I couldn't walk. And it was just, anyway, I had a scan. There was all this shadowing around my son's organs. And I was told he was going to have a blood transfusion in the womb. Anyway, there's a whole story around it all. But do you know what? I always felt fine. I always knew inherently everything was fine. And actually, it didn't have to happen in the end. And, sometimes you don't want to interfere with things because they work themselves out. But what you have just said is what I wanted to allude to. I just knew that everything was fine. And it was. And he's now 6'2". But that is some journey, Louise. And obviously you've, as you say, to have gone through it once, and and it's been about you finding your voice, so you can have your voice to speak out, so you can encourage other people to do the same.
Absolutely, Sarah. And the second time round, if I say I absolutely trusted that I was supposed to be here and there was a bigger reason, and keeping myself in that space of knowing that there was a bigger plan at play, I really see that second lot of cancer was another message for me to go even deeper, and clear out all the emotional baggage that we are carrying into midlife. And it was that piece of work that I feel was the missing piece for me. So having, decided, right, okay, I am going to really dig deep and go into the family relationships that have caused me sadness and hurt, and clear all that out. And the view that I had was, okay, right, so I'm good to go now. So what am I going to do? And
yes.
That's then how I met you on the USA Business Accelerator, isn't it? And
yeah,
that was me getting out of my own way, because Louise had always played small. She'd always played, oh, okay, then, never before had Louise got this voice, and this voice has become a bit of a roar now.
Suddenly there was, you kind of sort of were almost like in the background, and then suddenly there was this post that you put on, and that was when you sort of really came to my attention, because I was going, well, what did you look like before then? And then not long ago you put a post on, because let me explain, Louise is, you need to get a visual of Louise. So Louise, I'm looking at Louise, she looks really relaxed, really comfortable. She's got a sort of nice casual sort of collared t-shirt, top, blouse on, and she's got really nice, soft, really gentle sort of waves in short sort of mid-brown hair, glasses. She's sat behind her is a really lovely teal coloured wall with nice natural wood as well, and some angel wings and a plant. And you've got this real air, this real gentleness, this real comfortable, somebody that really knows themselves, really stands in their own true power, but in a sort of a really, really soft, supportive, encouraging, embracing, comfortable, enveloping, that's the word I'm looking for, comforting. We'll go with comforting instead. But this, you feel like, when I'm talking to you, when I'm in your presence, I feel like I'm buffered's the wrong word because that sounds like a movement, but it's supported on this sort of gentle, fluffy big cloud is what I feel. It's just beautiful, this beautiful energy. So this is the Louise that first came into my attention. Now, then when she posted on social media a few weeks back a picture of what she used to look like, you wouldn't recognise the two women because you had straight, highlighted, bleached, blonde hair, and your image was very, very different. I mean, you look gorgeous anyway, but it's just this different energy that came off. And now there's just this beautiful sort of serenity that is evoked and generated whenever I just always love chatting to you, and it's great to have you on the podcast because we can spend a long time together, and that's the beauty of the podcast, because I get really good quality conversations with people as fabulous as yourself.
Coming back to that identity piece, that Louise that had the blonde hair, I'd been blonde all my life, so clearly not natural. I spent an absolute fortune on my hair all my life to have that naturally blonde looking hair.
Yes, and I know the feelings.
I never had curly hair. So I feel very grateful that at 57 my hair has come back this colour. It's like a lighty mousy browny colour, because it could have come back completely grey, and the curly grey might not have looked so great, Sarah. But identity is something that, especially women in midlife really do lose, don't they? Because we are changing, our physical bodies are changing, our faces are changing. And for me, I suppose I was super charged thrown into that, because when you lose your hair, all your body hair, you realise that your identity has nothing to do with what you look like. Your identity is something completely different.
Absolutely.
It's such a beautiful thing to realise you are so much more than your body, and you are so much more than your hairstyle, you are so much more than your lipstick. And I got that with bells on, in terms of just accepting that. And I actually really like my hair now, and a lot of people have said to me, do you think you'll go back to dyeing it blonde? I've gone, no. That was the old Louise, and with that Louise was the whole package of what that Louise was about. And this Louise is completely different. So why would I want to be reminded of, the old Louise obviously had to be for me to unfold to be who I am now, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy waking up not knowing what my hair's going to look like, because it has a mind of its own.
That's the beauty of it. I personally believe that we have a physical body in order for the spirit to have a human experience. And I get really I think, you can wear and dress and be physically whatever you want to be. I don't understand who makes these rules about who wears what and what you should wear and when and how and why. In fact, I'm hoping to have a guest on that I've interviewed on my YouTube channel. In fact, she's agreed to come on and do an interview, and she's got a very, very big voice in the transgender community, Katie Neves. And I saw something that she read, when I've spoken to her before, I can't remember, but she gives a nod. She still trades under her Martin Neves photography, for example, and she still acknowledges the person that she was, even though she's now going through the process of gender reassignment, etc. And she's very much vocal, and it's great, and who's to say, it's just a body to have a human experience. And the more you fall into alignment with who you are, and just recognise that as you've said, it's like, well, why would I want to go back to that old image that doesn't fit with who I am now? And it's about breathing life into that acceptance of who you are, all your kinks, your foibles, your whatever, to be the person that you actually are meant to be. Because if other people have got, if they've judged you, that's their stuff.
Obviously, having chemotherapy, having 2 lots of operations and 2 lots of radiotherapy, it's not a great fun time, Sarah, to be honest. It's time out of life. It's time to really reflect, it gave me that time to go within, and I do believe that that's what this was all about. But the one thing that kept coming through to me in those moments of lying in bed, really, I couldn't even be bothered to watch the TV. I couldn't be bothered to have a conversation, because you just feel you're being poisoned, aren't you, at the end of the day? You just feel you've just got to be with that for that moment. It was about feeling alive and thriving. And those words have sort of been threaded through the business last year, and going to continue on with this extraordinary midlife Facebook group that I'm bringing through, because why wouldn't we want to feel alive, and why wouldn't we want to thrive in this lifetime? It's crazy. a lot of us, and I was that person who I was surviving, I was doing life how I thought I needed to do life, not how I wanted to do life necessarily. I didn't know, that's the thing, I didn't know myself enough. I hadn't worked out who I was. And it's this self-connection and this spiritual connection that really cemented who I was and what I'm here to do and the impact I am here to make in this next chapter of my life. And talking about, you said the physical body, absolutely. And if we don't look after our physical body, look what happens. I created that cancer. I know my whole, my lifestyle was wrong.
Yeah.
And it couldn't carry on. And for me to take that radical responsibility and change everything up was my message to the universe to say, okay, I get it now. I do need this physical body. I need to look after myself. I need to get this connection to nourishing not only my physical but my mind and my soul, because otherwise we fade. And I feel that midlife women sometimes, if they haven't got this piece in place, because of the life physical changes, and because we can tend to look, we've definitely got more life behind us than we have got going forward, we can start to sort of self-implode of, oh, well, what's the point? And maybe you're just struggling at the moment with midlife in the fact that maybe your kids have just left home, or maybe a lot of people are getting divorced. I was speaking to lovely Sarah Woodward yesterday, and she was saying, the divorce rate is sky high at the moment because maybe COVID.
Do you think people are waking up though, making that decision? Because I don't know, I've not sort of alluded to too much, but I ended a 20-year relationship I had with my son's father. Gosh, it's 17 years ago now, and we'd been together 20 years. I met him when I was 19, divorced him when I was 39 because I'd had a wake up call. That's not for now the sort of story at all, but I just sort of lived my life. We got on and we did stuff, but I just carried on just doing my thing. I supported him being self-employed, etc. And then it wasn't until I left that I started on my own journey, and I say self-discovery because what I was discovering was already within me, and it was, I recognised stuff, and then when I would read things, I would go, that's why I feel like that. This has got a name to it, and it wasn't that I was learning; it was that it was allowing it to. It was all coming out of me, and I felt like a sponge, and I was just absorbing. It was just this huge journey, and I remember him saying to me 18 months after I'd left, and we'd been divorced a year by then, and I'd moved into my own home with my son. And he said, you've become the person that you would have been if it hadn't have been for me. But, I had that time, and his family, actually, ironically, all of his brothers and sisters, they were very much sort of spiritually tuned, far more than he was, funnily enough. But, so I've always been around all of that. But it was this whole journey that I then went on about all the things that you've just alluded to, about discovering me and what makes me tick, what makes my heart sing. And, sort of 4 years after that, suddenly I went self-employed in the height of the recession in 2009, something I'd never considered doing when I was with him, because I always felt like I was the main breadwinner and needed my income to support both of us on a regular basis. And you used another word, and it's that taking responsibility, but I kind of took responsibility for both of us rather than just myself. And I always, because my profile is very much of a star supporter, I like to support other people. And I've had to learn to do that for myself as opposed to, first and foremost, because as we know, if you're not looking after yourself, you can't look after other people. And it's that taking responsibility. That is such a big, big word, because it's important that we take responsibility for ourselves and our life and make the changes that you've alluded to, that you've done. I mean, I'm fascinated as to sharing with the listener what your life looked like before and what that inner work was that you did that made you the sort of the really happy person that you are now.
My life before, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got a very happy marriage and I've got lovely children. So yes, on the surface, it is happy, and we did have happy times. But myself, I knew I wasn't happy deep within, and I know that that's the case for a lot of midlife women as well. I was so busy, Sarah. I kept myself so busy. I was part of a multi-level marketing business scenario, and as you know, that's about building team, and it's about building clients. And I would be out networking at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd be doing lunch networking. I'd be doing evening meetings. I would be socializing. I would be drinking a lot, which is now something I just don't do. And I was doing everything for the home as well. And when I look back, it's almost like a whirlwind, because actually some of my friends at the time said, God, I can't keep up with you. And I said, oh, I was spinning so many plates.
Yes.
And it's almost like, what was I was doing? I was so doing. I never, ever took time for me. I'd say I never took time for me. I've always walked my dogs every day in the beautiful forest. And I do know that was probably the only lovely, healing self-time I allowed myself to have, really. But that was, right, I've got to walk the dogs. It wasn't about me. It was about the dogs need walking.
Yes, yeah.
So what I think I'm saying to you here is that the energy of Louise then was so different to the energy now. That was a frantic, desperate, I need to get the next client in, or why is that team member just bailed out again? Because in network marketing, that's the thing. Yeah. They all say, I'm going to be the best team member you're going to have, and then 2 days later they've given up on themselves. And that was a learning journey for me. I know that I don't regret setting up that business and running with that business. I had some fun with it, and I met some...
And you had huge amounts of learning as well.
Huge amounts of learning, and it's all meant to be. I do believe that our life unfolds absolutely as it's meant to. But the Louise now has time for herself. So I've gone from a human doing to being a human being, and I love to see, and this is how I help women in my one-to-one program, to truly live their life through the lens of being.
Yes.
And that's being in the moment, being themselves, being grateful, being happy. And this lens of being is how I teach it. It teaches you to just remind yourself how to be, because we are in this moment together, you and I, Sarah. The future hasn't happened yet. So we need to learn to enjoy the moments that we have. Always, because these moments make up our life.
Totally agree with you. And it's about being living in that moment and enjoying life, and to just... Yeah, I mean, and I guess, you've done so much inner work, and so I've done so much inner work, but it's understanding that, and it's educating people that it's about you, not what other people think or believe and tell you should be doing or you shouldn't be doing, because it's your life. Absolutely. And if you do start to change, and I'm sure you'll probably have experienced this yourself, and I mean, I know from when I left my relationship with my ex-husband, all the contacts and friends I had, I think I've never seen anybody since. You strip it all back, and people fall away. But then as people and things fall away that don't fit anymore, the right people come into your lives. It's like, we've connected, and it's that energy is absolutely great, and encouraging people to do the same. And no, it's fine. It's okay, because we learn so much along the way, and we pick up all this sort of emotional baggage and things. And those are the things that can cause blockages in our system. And if we don't remove them, we can end up with physical ailments as a result, or, physical or mental ailments as a result. One causes one, and we're just energy, aren't we, vibrating at a frequency.
We can dial that up and live in this vibration of love and happiness and joy, or we can dial it down. We can allow ourselves to be dialed down by life with problems, with woe me, with all the emotions that, self-worth, lack of confidence. You can take yourself into what I know to be the darkness of life, but you don't have to stay there. Everybody has the same choices, and there are ways to move up. There are ways to create the life you want. And I know that might sound corny, and people go, oh, I read that in the books. Oh, yeah, on about that again. It's so bloody true. And life is short, and life really is about connecting yourself to this beautiful life and being in the moment. And if people don't know how to do that, then there are people in this world like myself, like yourself, that help people genuinely get this connection. And while people think, oh, well, why would I pay somebody to help me do that? Well, I can tell you why, because you can't do it on your own sometimes. If you can't do it yourself, are you prepared to stay stuck? Because that's the ultimate.
Absolutely. And we aren't our behaviour, and that's the beauty of it, is we're the way we are is like a computer program. We can change the program at any given time, but we have to put the work in. We have to take a note, decide what it is that we want to change and what we want to bring about in terms of that change, and then make the changes happen. And it needs to be just small shifts, and it could be to do with the way you think, the way you act, the way you behave. It might just be a small shift change in the words that you use, taking them from a negative to a positive. And I love the power of the reframe. Reframing is is absolute gold, because as soon as you switch around the way you're thinking, so if you're thinking, oh, I don't want to do this, that and the other, or they're so and so and so and so is horrible, if you start to think about, well, actually this is what I enjoy doing, this is what I love doing, this person's, they might, they've got these positive qualities, and you start to view people experiences in a different light, your whole experience around all of that will absolutely magically transform and change. And it is, I mean, you're talking about paying for support and coaching as well. I mean, I've invested thousands in my own personal development, and the teachers arrive when they're meant to arrive, and it's picking up on those connections. And if something feels right and you go, oh, actually, this is, do it, go for it. I mean, we met through a program that, we've had conversations about, and I was not sure that I'd got the outcome that I thought that I wanted from it, but actually I got what I needed from it.
Always for your highest good, Sarah. We always think, oh, but that didn't work out because that's what I wanted. Well, actually, no, that has worked out perfectly because you got what you needed. And I love that, because I didn't want cancer, did I? But oh my God, I needed cancer to come along for me to get this work done, Sarah. Nobody knows how long we've got. Nobody knows their expiry date. They don't. So I'm on this podcast today. I may well pass away in 6 months, but I'm not going to say, I may die of a car accident. I may die of something. Life is for living in the moment, and I've embraced that, and I know that absolutely pumps up my vibration, because I've chosen to do that. I've chosen to really follow my own mantra of feel alive and thrive, and feeling alive is what I want to do. I still struggle with my energy, to be honest, Sarah. So sometimes when I'm not feeling energized, I think, yeah, but I'm still alive. I can still have the beautiful thoughts of positivity and go and meditate, read a lovely, inspiring book. So that can make me feel alive. So feeling alive doesn't necessarily mean you've got to be, I know you're very active, aren't you? I can't be as active as that right now for medical reasons.
Yeah, but it's how you realign that, like you've just said, though, because you are tuning into your body, you're recognizing that you are alive, you can go and read that book, you can go and do all these other things that make you feel alive and enjoy and embrace and
connect with lovely people like you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, that's it. I mean, you did a fantastic angel card reading for me a few weeks ago, and that was so empowering, because that really validated all the things that I'd already sort of kind of got to, and it was just really magical to hear what I was already thinking coming back at me, and sort of not that I need validation, but I think we all do, especially if you're self-employed. It's lovely to hear that you kind of think, oh yes, well, I am actually on the right track, and that feels good. And having followed that through already in this year in January, as we are recording this, that everything feels like, you were saying about being, and I'm certainly embraced that sort of more being than doing. I mean, and I've had those years where I've been sort of frantic, crikey. I used to work for a national recruitment business, and that was absolutely mentally frantic. But since I've been self-employed, I've had ups and downs, I've had loads of things and challenges, but I've tended to always kind of go with the flow and understood and believe that everything's working out wonderfully, despite COVID impacting my business and all of this stuff kicking off. But now, having had that conversation with you and sort of really sort of gone into the flow of my own energy, it's just evolving, because you're not pushing. And I think when you're pushing, you're battering against something and have this expectation. But actually, if you believe that it's all working out wonderfully and you just sit with your own energy, everything can flow.
I love the way you use the word magic, because I do think that people don't appreciate what life can bring to them, because they're not showing up in the moment. Let's say they're not showing up being open-hearted. They're not believing that this can happen for them. And when you don't believe, I'm sorry, nothing will happen. We're all energy, as you said earlier on, and to be in that place of deep trust and knowing that what is about to unfold will unfold anyway. I do believe there's a bigger plan at play always.
Oh, absolutely.
The word unfold is a word that I realised I was using a lot in my vocabulary. And so when I came to put my new program together, my spiritual mentorship program, I thought it's got to be called Unfold, because I am actually helping people understand, get that connection to the great unfold of their life. I'm getting them to understand that connection to self is is going to be such a beautiful, almost like an unfolding of themselves. And funnily enough, I love my gold wings. And I looked at my gold wings the other day and I thought, oh, wings unfold, don't they?
Yes, of course. They unfold, unfold. But yes, absolutely. And they're beautiful. Your gold wings are gorgeous. What makes you a happy person right now then, Louise?
I feel so grounded in myself and in the mission that I know I've got ahead of me, in, championing and helping individually groups of women in midlife. I really feel that this is giving me so much happiness back. I feel so aligned with what I'm doing now. Everything makes sense. Everything makes sense. And when you've had the sort of the prelim to this, just the last few months really, when this has all just really clicked into place, it feels magical, and that makes me happy, because I kept trusting that what I was doing, whatever I was intuitively led to do, was what I was meant to do. And I truly believe that, and I truly trust that, and that gives me great happiness.
That's so lovely to hear.
I know I'm making an impact as well, Sarah, and I know I will be transforming people's lives, even if they're just in the Facebook group listening to what's going on in there.
It's that proverbial pebble, isn't it? That ripple effect, and going into the... Yeah, it's that sort of impact that you have, and it's the nuggets that people hear and take along the way, and you can impact people in a small bit, or it could be somebody that's further out that you've impacted through something you've said that's connected with somebody else. And it's that making the difference. It's how we serve, isn't it? So what would your top tips for happiness be for the listeners?
Oh, top tips. I would say I would absolutely, when you finish listening to this podcast, I would just go and sit and be really quiet with yourself for a couple of moments and just be with yourself. That could be a small step that you could then build on to take time each day to just be with yourself. Not plugged into anything, not looking at anything, just be with yourself. Just close your eyes and start to be with yourself. My other top tip to happiness is, if you aren't having a good relationship with your body, as in you're not moving it and you're not nourishing it with the right foods, I'd take a good look at that. Have an honesty audit with yourself on what you're putting in, because you are what you eat, and your energy will be affected by what you eat, also by what you drink. And I say that as having been a big drinker myself. I know my own channel, my own connection, my own love of life has amplified since I've stopped drinking. That is a very powerful self-care happiness tip, I would say. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink, but if you are using drink as a bit of a crutch, maybe you should have a look at that, because that will never make you happy. You may be happy, that's a short-term happiness. You may be happy in the moment, but and in midlife especially, our bodies can't cope with it. Nature is such a great healer. We live in this beautiful, beautiful world, and to go out and be fully aware of it, we're all part of the same thing, Sarah, and that makes me so
connecting
happy.
with energy. That's why I love going out sort of running in doing trail running and things like that, because you're out there. My trail running consists of stopping and taking photographs.
I often find myself, Sarah, on a walk, and I'll be right down into the guts of a flower, a flower that's opening. I want to see what's in there. And actually, when you start to do that, you're just amazed by what you see, because the patterns and the colours and I mean, they're quite phenomenal. But somebody could just walk straight past, and you don't have then that, oh wow, that's amazing. And it's those oh wow, amazing, the wonder of nature. I think it's something we should embrace. We absolutely should embrace. And we can do that no matter where you live. There's normally a park, or, if you live by the coast, go and have a look at the waves on different days, and the wind and the rain. I just think it doesn't matter the weather. Go out there, experience feeling alive, because I tell you what, the wind thrashing around you, the rain thrashing, it makes you feel alive. And so that is a happiness there, all in get moving and out in nature.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And you sort of echo all of the thoughts that I've always had on all of those levels, because I love being out there. I love looking, look out. I mean, today, obviously where you are, you've got sunshine. I've got mist, but I just love it. I find it really magical to look at, and I love looking at all the twists and turns and the plants and the different textures. That's what I love about the UK, living in the UK so much, is that you've got this rich texture and tapestry of weather. You don't know whether to go out with an umbrella or a bikini or a pair of wellies or just like some sun cream. You just don't know what you're going to get the next day. And that's what I love about it, that ever sort of changing and enjoying it and embracing it, and, going with the twists and turns, and if it is like, you've planned sort of to go out and sunbathe the following day, I don't know, and it's teeing it down with rain, you can go off and do something else, and it's adjusting and adapting and pivoting, but that's, gosh, we could carry on talking for hours and hours. But Louise, it's just been an absolute pleasure having you on to the podcast. It's just wonderful, and I hope everyone that's listening has really taken to heart all of that you said, and really will start to think and start to do that deep work. And as you said, spend more time being than doing, and just sort of think about themselves. Get out into nature, just see the first flower or leaf or whatever, and just examine it in more detail. Just look at it. Spend a minute or two just looking at it.
Be curious.
Absolutely.
If you start to be curious, you will find happiness.
How do people get in touch with you?
A year ago, you'd have had to phone me on my landline because I was not on social media. So this year, I'm on Instagram. So that's Louise.Budgen. I can be found on Facebook as well. And I have a group called Your Extraordinary Midlife, which is a free Facebook group as well. So I run my own business. So if anybody reaches out to me in any way, then they will directly get to me. So you won't get somebody else contacting you back.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. As I say, again, absolute pleasure. I always love talking to you. I wish we lived closer. I'd be on your doorstep having coffee every day. You probably go, Sarah, oh my gosh, it's that that stalker again, a banner. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this episode with Louise as much as I've enjoyed talking to Louise. As I say, I could talk to Louise for hours, but that would make a very long podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please do follow, subscribe, rate, review, do all the things that you normally do on your platform, and let's spread happiness globally. It already is happening, but let's spread it further afield. Let's change people's lives for the better. So thank you again for tuning in to my podcast. It's been Sarah J Naylor, and sending you lots of love for the rest of your day, week, year. Take care. Lots of love.
Thanks for listening to the Harnessing Happiness podcast with Sarah J Naylor. If you took value from the content, please follow the show on your podcast app. And to find out more about Sarah's ape mindset, visit sarahjnaylor.com. That's